It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, welcome back to another episode of As the Aiyuk Turns here on Steelers Afternoon Drive. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. It was like about 40 degrees cooler at training camp today with like 900% less humidity. So nothing's going to bring me down today.
That sounds awesome. Why couldn't I be out there right now? Like, why did I pick the weekend? That was because it was our 1 year anniversary. That's right. It was very unfortunate timing of the weather when I was out there. But
also, you missed you missed Brett Michaels yesterday. So like,
yes, and Derek Shelton and Ben Sherrington, although probably good. I don't know if I'd say I missed them. Probably a better thing that I wasn't there in the same space as them. Alan, you were actually
here today too, as well again. So you
okay.
missed her too.
Yeah, I did miss Sierra. Dang it! I saw. Was it from the Friday Night Lights one? She was at the Friday Night Lights one as well, right? Is that the one that I saw some pictures?
I didn't see her there. Glorilla was there.
Okay, Glorilla was. Yeah, that picture where she's squirting water into Pat's mouth. I don't know if you saw that picture, but it was hilarious. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, the stars come out for Steelers camp. Will they be adding another
They
star?
always do.
In the very near future, Alan? That's the question on everybody's mind. It's been a topic, of course, over the last couple of days, but until there's some resolution, it's going to continue to be a topic. Brandon Aiyuk, 49ers wide receiver. Are we any closer to a resolution today than we were yesterday, than the day prior, as we sit here right now?
Not that I would feel comfortable staking on. No, I don't. Close is a very difficult thing in these. You can be not that far away in terms of if I say I want 10 million and you say that you think I'm only worth 9.9 million, well then we're close, right? We're not far apart, but that also doesn't necessarily mean that we're close to resolving that difference either. In fact, sometimes you can get very close and never fully resolve those differences. I have relayed and have reported at SteelersNow.com with myself and Derek Bell that the Steelers have, I would say in the last 24 hours, become confident that they are going to be able to land Brandon Aiyuk, that they have a deal that the 49ers will accept. That doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It certainly is not a done deal, as has been reported seemingly ad nauseum by people who don't know what they're doing and should not be taken seriously. But I can relay some confidence from the Pittsburgh side of things that a deal eventually will get done. And again, could be today, could be tomorrow. We still got a whole month before the start of the season. There is relatively no rush in this process. Yeah, unless Darius rushes in this process, and then there would be a rush in the process.
A little bit banged up today. While you mentioned Darius Rush did come back though, right? I mean, did you notice anything after he came back that would signal that something was up more than?
Nah, just something to keep an eye on. But he looked okay coming back.
Okay, yeah. Weird. I didn't mean to segue that into that. I want to continue with this conversation, but I just thought about that as you said, Rush. With Brandon Aiyuk, though, have you heard anything in terms of, because there's been things floated out there by people and even things that I've heard, but want to get your perspective on this as well, whether there is, an agreement in terms of the financial side of things with Brandon Aiyuk, and it's more about the trade compensation going the other direction?
I don't know that a contract is done, but I think the Steelers are largely willing to meet his asking price.
Okay. All right.
I can't say that there's ink on paper or something like that. And that was the sort of very ridiculous thing about the reporting that was out there today where someone said, oh, they have a verbal agreement. A trade is a verbal agreement. If you have a verbal agreement, the only thing you're missing for having a trade is someone to call the league office. There is no contract to sign. There's no written agreement in a trade between teams. It's all verbal. That's all it is. I say, we're going to do this, right? Yeah, okay. I'll call the league, you call the league, and then it's done. That's the process. There is nothing other than a verbal agreement. If you have a verbal agreement, you have a trade. Now, the contract between Brandon Aiyuk and the team that he will be traded to, that will need signed eventually, yes. But I don't get the sense that is where the holdup lies.
Okay.
At least not in terms of his coming to Pittsburgh. Cleveland, New England certainly seems to be that area is a bigger hardship.
I want to get your take on something too that I put out on Twitter, and you can tell me if I'm way off base in thinking this, but it's just kind of the way that I've kind of watched these things play out in the past. We've gotten to the point where, national media people were throwing out that it's Pittsburgh Steelers and other teams. That is the wording that was being used involved in the Brandon Aiyuk sweepstakes. Why would the other teams' names not be included? It almost feels like it is just the Steelers and 49ers discussing at this point.
Feels like it's baseball trade. We need John Heyman to get in here with the mystery team, right? I mean, isn't that isn't that
Arson Judge is actually going the other way in the Brandon Aiyuk trade?
Yeah. No one is out of a trade until the player is having a press conference somewhere else. Don't believe it. They're not out. They may not be in right now, but that doesn't mean that can't change with the lift of a cell phone and one push of a button. And things change, like what a team might think it doesn't want to do right now. They can go out and have practice today. Something happens and they're like, you know what? Never mind. We got to do it now. Like I put the words fluid situation in there, kind of a joke, kind of like replicating Mike Tomlin's speech pattern, but like it is until it's done, it's not done. And until it's done, lots and lots of things can change.
Yeah, see, that's what we talked about yesterday, and I was on, obviously, I wouldn't say the other end because I'm not saying there's teams out now, but with Pittsburgh, how it was put out there that they were out, I was like, no, they're not. Like, they might not be willing to meet what the asking price is at right now, but that doesn't mean that things wouldn't change in 20 minutes, an hour, as it seemingly did yesterday from the way that it was being reported. But going back to my question there, why would it be put out in your opinion in that way where it's like Pittsburgh Steelers and other teams?
Well, because the 49ers are trying to get somebody else to pay more. I mean, I think Washington is a sneaky team that not enough people are talking about. If the 49ers really want a wide receiver coming back, they have Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. Like, that is a good piece of depth to be trading from. And obviously, Aiyuk's made it clear that he would really like to play in Washington in addition to Pittsburgh. He has a relationship with Jaden Daniels from playing college together. I think Washington's an under-discussed landing spot here. I think certainly the fact that he's indicated a willingness to play there gives them a leg up on teams like Cleveland and New England, where it just does not seem like, for whatever reason, he wants to go there. And I have said throughout the process that I think San Francisco is acting irrationally in trading him, and I generally expect teams to do what's rational. It doesn't always happen, but I think the smart move for San Francisco is to find a way to keep him.
I agree, but it almost feels like, I don't want to say we're past that point, but like with things that are being put out there from their side by people that have covered that team and have covered for that team for a very long time. I mean, it's gotten pretty nasty in terms of the words that have been thrown around. Like, it
hasn't though. I mean, I talked about this morning, but like, it's not that nasty. We've seen way nastier. I mean, this is the National Football League. We've seen that. He said practice today. Like, how bad could it be?
I'm saying the words that are being used by people that cover the team, and I've always viewed it as that is kind of being pushed out by the team using them as mouthpieces to people at the top. So that is why I'm saying that. Like, if that gets to Brandon Aiyuk, his agent, if they're reading that, where do they think that's coming from? If they think that's coming from the team trying to paint him as the bad guy in this situation, that is where I think that there could be, some contention.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see a lot of contention. Like, I think this is,
I don't know how you pronounce the guy's name. Michael Silver and that Matt, whatever. Like their pieces regarding this situation. I mean, Michael Silver ripped Brandon Aiyuk a new one for not practicing. Said Kyle Shanahan takes issue with the fact that he's there and not participating right now, and they don't view it the same as Deebo Samuel. Like, I mean, if I'm Aiyuk and his agent, I'm like, why are we painting this picture right now when, like you said, we've seen the situation with Deebo a couple years ago?
But it's not just the picture. I mean, they are actively involving in trade talks. Like they've gone beyond like attempting to sling on the media. They're just like, I don't get it. I think they're acting irrationally. I think they're going to make a bad trade, whether it's Pittsburgh or somebody else. And I don't know, maybe maybe cooler heads will prevail at some point.
So you're in the mindset right now. If you had to pick, you think he's getting moved. If you had
I mean, if I'm believing the reporting out of San Francisco, and Mike Silver's a really good journalist, it seems like it.
Okay. I mean, I'm in agreement, but I just wanted to see where you were fully at with that at this. I mean, again, like the way that this thing has changed within, I don't know, 48, 72 hours is pretty crazy to me, because if you would have asked me coming onto this show on Monday, even, I would have said still number one option. I think he remains in San Francisco.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I'm still going to continue to be skeptical of something happening that doesn't make sense until it does. And then I'll be glad to be wrong.
That's fair enough. Alan, we got
one more thing I want to throw in there about Aiyuk and about the timing of this. And like, so the Steelers, as we've talked about, pretty much only have draft capital to offer. If it looks like San Francisco is only going to get a deal done with the Steelers, that's kind of that, like they can't find another team that has more than what the Steelers have to work with. A part of this process that could be taking place is they could be, one, trying to involve a third team, or two, trying to immediately be able to flip those draft picks for something else, gauging the market to see, okay, so even though we don't want draft picks, let's say we get, just throwing this out there, I don't know, a second and a third from the Steelers. What could we get for that? What does that add up to in roster players for us if we immediately go try to trade that somewhere else? And that is a process that could take some time if they want to really fully vet that option.
I don't know if this is worth bringing up on here because it's predictions from them, but like in real time, just thought I'd mention this. Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo are on NFL Network right now talking about the situation. Mike Garafolo said, expect the 49ers to trade Brandon Aiyuk before an extension is signed. Also, if I had to make a prediction right now, the Steelers are landing Aiyuk for just draft capital. And then Ian Rappaport agreed with him on that. So no player involved from either side there in their prediction.
Yeah, we've said all along that I don't think the Steelers have players that it makes sense for the 49ers to want to acquire. That just I don't see them.
Right, the one player that we've mentioned, like James Daniels, you guys reported on the site that he would potentially be part of trade talks, or the Steelers could offer him, because that's a good player from a position where they feel like they could slide somebody over, whether it's Herbig moving from center to guard and Frazier starting, Mason McCormick is a rookie starting, and he's a good player, but he's also on an expiring contract. So, could he go the other way? But if San Fran feels like they have the guards right now, they don't necessarily need James Daniels. Maybe they would just value the draft capital to then be able to turn it into something more beneficial for them in 2024.
Yeah, but you can imagine how that would take some time to talk to 30 other teams about what they're going to be able to get for these draft picks they might be getting for Aiyuk. So stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned we got some really good questions on yesterday's YouTube video, which actually did really good numbers. We appreciate that. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Keep coming back. Every episode through his afternoon drive. Really enjoy your camp reports, Alan. This is from Dave Shifter, I believe. Thanks for the perspective you give. For what it's worth, notice both
Dave knows how to get his question on, by the way, also.
Yes. Yep. So, okay. But I will say, I'm critiquing a little bit here, Dave, because he mentioned specifically the camp reports. He's probably on afternoon drive, so obviously he watches this too. If he throws in some morning rush love as well, like if he just says, just check every box there,
or some Smitty love too,
yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I know where Dave's coming from here. Maybe if I get Dave's name right the first time, I'll get some love. For what it's worth, I noticed both Dulac and Wolfley mentioned Fautanu at guard recently on the team site, which led me to believe we're the driver's seat on an Aiyuk trade for Daniels and then him shifting over. Would that be a plausible thing? I will state, as good as Fautanu would be at guard, I'd encourage our team to keep him at offensive tackle. Even if we do trade Daniels, McCormick would be my choice at right guard, even though he's raw. Herbig could rotate in for McCormick or Frazier. So there's a lot to digest there. But ultimately, Fautanu at guard
he did not play guard in practice yesterday. I don't know where that came from. He played a lot of tackle. He played a lot of right tackle with the first team. He didn't play any guard that I saw. So, yeah, I don't know. It was Mike Tomlin was asked about that today, and he said he did not. So it could be an unbalanced line, or he may have taken some reps as like an extra offensive lineman. So those, an unbalanced line would be like Fautanu is playing right tackle, and then Dylan Cook shifts from the left tackle to the other side of him, lined up as a tight end, basically. Like that's something that could happen. Maybe somebody saw that. Dylan Cook has also worked as an extra tight end. So maybe someone saw him inboard of Cook and said, oh, is he playing guard? But, it's still the tackle role.
Yeah, I was starting to wonder, though, as I was reading that, is it more speculation than anything else? Like, were they saying they for sure saw that take place, or was it more so them mentioning, hey, this could happen if this happens, almost like
he certainly could play guard. He could, but I don't see that happening right now. Even if they traded Daniels, I don't see that happening right now.
Just from your perspective, which route would you rather go? Would it be shifting Fautanu inside, Broderick and Dan Moore as your tackles, or would you keep Fautanu out at tackle and have Herbig or McCormick at guard?
I'd move Herbig to guard. I think Herbig's a better guard than center anyway, so I think that makes a lot of sense.
I agree there. Actually, this guy had 2 questions, so we'll get to both of his right here. This is from Josh Pauly. He asked about Zach Frazier. How is Zach Frazier doing? Do you think that he is going to be starting when it's all said and done?
I would say that I'd probably call that closer to 50-50. I think Nate Herbig is going to start the preseason game this Friday night. We'll see how things go. He's done okay. He's progressing. I liked his second week of camp better than his first week of camp. I thought he had a really good day on Tuesday. Less noticeable today, but progressing. We'll see if he gets there before the start of the season or not. I think if you like put a gun to my head, maybe make a prediction, I think I'd say Herbig, but it's pretty close.
Okay. Yeah, I know that we talked about that a little bit yesterday, like, with Frazier getting more comfortable, obviously the athleticism, which not really to a fault of his own. Herbig can do everything perfectly throughout camp, but if they just see the functional athleticism that Frazier could provide this offense that Herbig simply can't, do you still make the call to go with Frazier, even though Herbig's done literally everything in his power to keep that job?
Yeah, I think he's done a really nice job. I have very little to nitpick with Herbig.
Okay. The other part of his question, not related at all. We're going back to the Aiyuk talk here. I would trade Highsmith in a third. Wow, the draft pick all over the map here from Josh. 3rd through 7th. Any pick. Highsmith's salary kind of high, and we have Herbig.
Yeah, well, the reason that won't work is that Highsmith's salary is kind of high. They did eat a $21.5 million dead cap hit by trading Alex Highsmith this offseason. You can pretty much forget about that.
I do understand. So what was it before was it the same before because they restructured his deal? He's the one that they did do.
It would have been less if they had done it before they restructured him. Yes.
Yeah. I get the idea from the perspective of trying to offset salary, but I don't think that's taking into consideration the dead cap, like you're saying. Yeah. Like, I think it's looking at, okay, we have this.
They could not afford to make that trade. They just couldn't. Like, you'd be taking on $21.5 million from Highsmith, would put them over the cap as it is. They can make some more, restructure Cam or extend Cam, restructure TJ, restructure Minka, but then you got to include Aiyuk's salary in there too. Like, it's not feasible.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like that was probably looking at just the cap hit more than anything else and saying this is a somewhat expensive player here. We really like Herbig behind him and think that he can play opposite of TJ Watt, and thinking that it makes sense. But when you do take into consideration the financial ramifications that aren't just the cap hit, the dead cap of that, like you're saying, not at all feasible. This is a quick hitter question, Alan. Somebody asking about is Cam Sutton able to participate in preseason games despite his suspension?
Yep, all training camp practices and all preseason games he's eligible to participate in. His suspension does not begin until 4 p.m. on the cutdown day, the week after the final preseason game. So, yes, you will see Cam Sutton out there on Friday.
I guess so. My question becomes, because we've talked a lot about Beanie Bishop and seeing him. Do you think he is because they're sitting so many of their starters, but do you think that he is one that will see time, will play with the ones? And if so, what do you think the pecking order will be?
I think Beanie Bishop will play with the first team as the nickel. I think Graylin Arnold will play with the second team as the nickel. I think Thomas Graham will play with the third team as the nickel. And I think you'll see Cam Sutton work in as an extra DB in dime situations, and also as like the third or fourth, like third team free safety behind Minka Fitzpatrick and DeMonte Casey.
Did you see Corey Trice at all? Is he even able to like hold in his anticipation for Friday's game at this point? You mentioned how excited he was.
Yeah, he's pretty psyched. I did see him today. He was signing autographs, so I didn't bother him, but he's pretty fired up.
There we go. And I like this question a lot from Tim. He said, what makes this team a contender if it isn't trading for Brandon Aiyuk? You kind of feel like the rest of the pieces are in place. You look at the defense, they've hopefully figured out the quarterback situation, rebuilt the offensive line. If not Aiyuk, what would it be?
Yeah, they don't have a quarterback. I mean, they certainly don't have a proven quarterback. They don't have a quarterback on the level of the rest of the contenders in the AFC. And that's a very important piece. They're going up against Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, with not just worse, but like probably significantly worse quarterback play. I like the Steelers defense. I like their running game. I think their offensive scheme will be greatly improved. Aiyuk would give them probably the best wide receivers in, I don't know. Would Aiyuk and Pickens be better than Higgins and Chase and Burton and Yoshi Voss? Probably not 1 through 4. Maybe best 1-2 receivers in the division. Certainly better than Kansas City and Buffalo's receivers, but
Sure.
It's just, I mean, the quarterback position means so much, and I think the Steelers don't have reason to suspect that they're going to get much better than average quarterback play out of whichever of Russell Wilson or Justin Fields plays, and that's going to hold them back significantly compared to the teams. And it's not just those teams. Like Tua can be very good. Herbert can be very good. Like it's not Lawrence can be very good. There's, the Steelers might have like a bottom 5 or 6 quarterback situation in the AFC like that. It's hard to say you're a contender in those circumstances.
Real quick, because I agree about the quarterback thing. I wanted to bring up, it was funny when you mentioned the receiver thing because of how we talked about the receiver position. All of a sudden, you drop a player like Brandon Aiyuk there, and it becomes a strength for this team. Like we talked about the depth of it probably being better than last year. There's just not that number 2 guy. Like there's not somebody of Deontay Johnson's caliber on this roster right now. It'd be funny to see how quickly that could change with the inclusion of Brandon Aiyuk. But yeah, it's about the quarterbacks. I mean, not to say I for sure don't believe that it's there on the roster, but we don't know what that position is going to look like for this team. So until you have an answer there, it's hard for me to categorize them as a contender. I certainly think they can be in contention for the AFC North, especially with the way that they play against the teams in the division, and certainly should be in the mix for a wild card spot. But in terms of a Super Bowl contender, I'd have a hard time, even with Brandon Aiyuk being on the roster, saying they are in that conversation just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can pretty clearly say they're going to have a worse quarterback situation than Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Buffalo, the Chargers, the Jaguars, and the Dolphins. And they might have worse quarterbacks. The Texans, right? They might have a worse quarterback situation than the Jets. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to look like. They might have a worse quarterback situation than the Browns. Maybe Deshaun Watson finally puts it all back together from his pre-suspension and injury self. Like Anthony Richardson really can catch fire. Like, I mean, it's pretty far down the line before you're like, oh, okay, I'm sure that Russell Wilson is better than Will Levis. Like that's how far down the line you kind of got to get to before you're like, no, the Steelers are better than that. They're way down the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have more questions than just specifically that? Or like if you felt like the quarterback solution was here, you could for sure know that there was a top, I don't know, 10-ish quarterback on this roster right now, would then you feel comfortable about, or do you have other questions about this roster than just the quarterback?
I have other questions. I mean, I think Arthur Smith's scheme is going to be a vast improvement over what we saw from Matt Canada, but let's acknowledge that it was not great in Atlanta, and it probably needs to be better to have the same kind of success that it had before when he was in Tennessee. The league adjusts. He's going to need to continue to make adjustments. I don't think just because it's going to be better means it's going to be great. And the offensive line, I love all the pieces, but it's a lot of projection you're doing there. It's not like proven results, right? I mean, Broderick Jones had a handful of good games last year. Troy Fautanu a rookie, Zach Frazier rookie, Nate Herbig's never started as center. I mean, that's that's a big part of the offensive line there. You're doing projection. You're not doing real results. And then the schedule is so difficult that even if they are really good, it's going to be hard for them to put themselves in good position in the postseason. Like they are probably, even if they get better than average quarterback play from Russ, and even if that young offensive line comes together quickly, and all these guys that we think are going to be good turn out to be good, and even if Arthur Smith makes the necessary adjustments and gets his offensive back to being one of the top units in the league, even if all that happens, they could still be going on the road to Buffalo or Kansas City in the first week of the playoffs because their schedule's hard and it's going to be hard for them to stack wins. So it's really hard to say they're a realistic contender, even with Brandon Aiyuk.
A lot of what we talked about today is either hypotheticals or like a long-term projection for the season stuff. I want to real quickly go into the now. Any takeaways from today's day?
Russ looks good, man. I think he's, like I said, he's like the least hurt guy I've ever seen. He looks fine. He said he wants to play in a preseason game, so I do expect that we will see that probably next week, I would assume. Expect about 2 drives at Justin Fields, probably the rest of the first half of Kyle Allen, and a decent dose of John Rice Plumlee would be my expectation for this week. And probably not going to see I know Mike Tomlin only ruled out 7 guys, but like I doubt you're going to see a ton of Najee Harris. I doubt you're going to see a ton of Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens, guys like that he didn't rule out, but like those guys might play 1 series.
Okay. It mentioned John Rice Plumlee, though. Because Cordell Patterson hasn't really done anything. Who's going to be returning kicks in this game?
Plumlee and Jonathan Ward.
And then he's going to play quarterback as well.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm excited.
And then Quez Watkins has also been back there. And I'd have to check my notes, which I don't have in front of me. Maybe one of the other running backs. P. Ryan, I think, has been back there. So that's
okay. Yeah, I mean, they got guys that if Plumlee is going to return kicks in this game and also, play in the fourth, like play deep in this game, probably be the quarterback to close it out. I'm excited. I can't wait to see.
You know what I want? We're totally off the rails here, but it's great. I want to just have the entire starting offense on the field on the kickoff return. Plumlee returns the kick, and then put the ball down and go no huddle. Hurry up. Just get right to the line because you got your whole offense on the field. And the defense, you're not subbing. The defense is going to try to come, and then it'd be instant chaos. I'm all for it.
Wow. I wonder if anybody I know that you want to see that. We know it's not going to happen. But I wonder if there's any team that like even jokingly has thought about that as well, doing it.
I don't know. I don't know if you have to let them substitute on a change of possession, probably. But either way, I'm just getting right up to the line as fast as I can with my whole offense out there.
Danny Smith was joking around about the whole Justin Fields back returning kicks, and people ran with that. So, maybe this will catch some fire too.
Plumlee took one to the house today. He returned one for a touchdown today. He can run. Like he's a legit athlete. Like I don't think he's a very good quarterback, but he's a legit athlete.
So we just had the wrong quarterback in terms of who we thought was going to be returning kicks back there.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing. Was there anything else today that took place? Maybe caught your eye?
George Pickens made another alien catch on a screen pass. Lots of screens, man. There's going to be a ton of screens here. It's one of the reasons why I think you're going to like if you're looking for reasons to be optimistic about Zach Frazier, the dude just murders people on screens. You get that guy running, and it's carnage. I was standing on the sideline the other day, and like here comes a screen, and then all of a sudden, like here comes all 290 pounds of DeMarvin Leal flying through the air at my legs because Zach Frazier has just cleaned him out on like a 10-yard running start, and it's like, oh, okay, like that. I think they're going to have a lot of success with that. I don't think I had a whole bunch of other strong takeaways from today. I did check out the practice report there. One YouTube video up here on the channel.
There we go. And 2 up if you want to catch today's morning rush if you still haven't yet.
No, there's
think
3
that's
up.
it, though.
There's also Patrick Queen. Oh, new linebacker,
Oh,
Easton
know-
Gibbs. I do have an Easton Gibbs story to tell. I have a friend who covers Wyoming. Easton Gibbs, new Steelers linebacker, went to Wyoming. And I was at the combine, and generally, like when I'm at the combine, I don't have anything to do. If I have friends that cover teams, I'll like go stick a recorder in front of somebody who plays for their team's face and just send it to them. Be like, hey, I got this at the combine. Here, use it, like whatever. And I was over there for about 5 minutes with Easton Gibbs, and I think he said about 12 words, maybe 15. He is he's a soft-spoken young man. So there you go.
There we have it. So yeah, 3 up. I forgot about the sights and sounds. Should have forgot about the sights and sounds.
To use a Western reference, he is all cattle, no hat, which for a guy who played college for a team called the Cowboys is an interesting. But also, sidebar about Easton Gibbs, Jeff Hathorn from 93.7 The Fan showed up to practice today wearing a brown and gold Wyoming Cowboys shirt out of nowhere. And then the Steelers signed Easton Gibbs. So if you would like this Brandon Aiyuk stuff to be resolved, I suggest you all buy Arizona State merchandise and send it to Jeff Hathorn ASAP. I think that will get it done. Maybe
Jeff Hathorn was pulling for a Josh Allen trade, but instead, Easton Gibbs got signed. I don't know.
It's like the Pawn Stars meme was like, best I can do is a rookie free agent linebacker.
Yeah. Wait, what happened to Tyler Murray, by the way? That's who was waived /
groin injury. Yeah, groin injury.
Man, I don't know. Not that I thought he was going to make the team, but kind of intriguing with seeing him pop sometimes. So, hopefully we'll see what Easton's got to bring to the table. But Alan, tell the people where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH, PGH Steelers Now, SteelersNow.com. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that bell for notifications. Check us out on TikTok, Steelers Afternoon Drive. That's it.
There we go. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe as well if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from. You can find us there. Find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in and taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.